So I've been waiting for Netflix to drop their new limited series Godless for a little while now. Well, I finally had a chance to sit down and watch it last week. So in this video, I'm going to give you my review of Godless Season 1. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan, and this is where I review movies and shows from a variety of different platforms. Now, if you want help managing your expectations so you can get the most out of your viewing experience, consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss anything along the way. So Godless is a Western that takes place in the late 1800s. Now it centers around this small town of LaBelle that tragically lost its men in a mining accident some 2 years prior, leaving all the women of the town to run things for themselves. Now through a series of unfortunate events, these women find themselves smack dab in the middle of a conflict between a stranger named Roy Good and an outlaw named Frank Griffin. So now that I had a chance to see the show, I can tell you I really enjoyed it. But you need to know the plot is pretty simple. It is all about a guy by the name of Frank hunting down this man by the name of Roy and how these women get caught up in the middle of it. And all of that is spread out over the course of 7 very long episodes. So I can see how some people would complain that this show felt a little bit slow because it spends a significant amount of time developing the characters that populate this story. But for me personally, I enjoyed all of it. It didn't matter which character we were following, I was left engaged from start to finish. Now, one thing the show has going for it is a really great antagonist portrayed by Jeff Daniels. You see, what really makes Frank dangerous isn't so much his skills with a gun, it's his charisma. You see, Frank is one of these characters that can really inspire loyalty, and it's his religious zeal that makes him feel more like a cult leader than he does a gunslinger. And I feel like Jeff Daniels did an excellent job of walking the line between those two, because it's that moral complexity that really makes for a compelling character. But if I'm completely honest with you, I can't just give all the credit to Jeff Daniels. I also have to give some credit to the writers. You know, one of the marks of having good writers on a show, at least for me, is when those writers put their characters in situations that really highlight certain personality traits these characters have. And I feel like this show did that a couple of times. So let me give you an example. So in the opening shot of the very first episode, we find out that Frank ends up losing his arm. Now, for some people, that might just be a detail, but for me, it really highlights what I just told you. It highlights the fact that what makes him dangerous is not his skills with a weapon, but rather it's his charisma. And I feel like there's a couple of times throughout the show where they do a good job of contrasting certain character traits with other events to really highlight certain moments and give them more of a punch. Now, it's not just the writing that does this. I think the cinematography does this too. You know, the marks of a good cinematographer, much like a good writer, is when you can do one shot that tells a story for you without ever hearing a line uttered. And there's a couple of times this happens throughout the show. One of them's in the trailer. If you watch it, you'll see that there's this one shot where it shows men going to the mine, and then when it comes up, they're nothing but corpses. That tells your story for you. There's another shot in the show that I really liked. Now, I won't give you any of the details surrounding it. I will just simply tell you what the shot is. It is Frank on a horse inside of a church house, and the shot is from behind his head. And I feel like it highlights certain things about his character. It highlights his religious nature, but it also highlights his moral superiority as he towers over the crowd. And most importantly, it shows you that there really are no boundaries for him. He feels like he is right in everything he does, and therefore there is not a line he is not willing or prepared to cross. And that makes him truly terrifying. For all the great things about this show, I do have a couple of complaints, and they mainly revolve around one character. So here's the problem. This character is actually pretty interesting. I really enjoyed seeing her on screen. She fit in well with the town of LaBelle. She's strong, she's independent, and she actually serves a purpose in the end of the story. The problem is they tack her story arc on at the very end, making her feel more convenient than anything. And when you compare that story arc to the rest of the characters that you've gotten to know over the course of 7 episodes, the way they treated her just felt a little bit sloppy. Now, my last complaint, I will admit, is a bit of a pet peeve, and no one else will care about it. But there was a little bit of an inconsistency between 2 of the episodes. Now, this probably wouldn't have bothered me if I hadn't just got through watching a show that I felt like did this, but this is what happens. I will keep everything as generic as possible. At some point, a character receives an item at the very end of an episode. At the very beginning of the next episode, they use that item, and there is noticeable damage done to it. Now, little things like that really aren't that important, especially in this case. It's not not crucial to the plot. It's very insignificant. As a matter of fact, some people won't even notice it. But it made me feel like I missed something, and little inconsistencies like that are really highlighted when you're binge watching a show. So I've been trying to figure out exactly what it is about the show that makes me feel like it's great. And the truth is, I can't pinpoint any one thing. It just seems like a lot of the things this show does is just one notch above what I've seen other great shows in the past do. The acting, for example, by Jeff Daniels. His performance was just a little bit better than other great performances I've seen. The cinematography felt like it was on feature film level, which is just a one notch above every other show I've seen. And when it comes to the story, aside from the one complaint I had about it, it seems like it was just a little bit tighter than most other stories I have seen. So I would absolutely recommend that you go watch this show as soon as possible. I binge watched it, and I think you'll enjoy it too. So if you made it to this point in the video, that means you must have liked it, so you'll probably like some of my other videos. Why don't you go ahead and check out my review for Alias Grace? It's also a limited series Netflix drop just a couple of weeks ago. And if you're not really in the mood for that, why don't you go ahead and check out 1922? It's a Stephen King adaptation that goes by the same name. As always, you want to make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And in a couple of days, I'm going to be dropping a review for this new show called Dark. We're about halfway through it right now. It's got a bit of a Stranger Things kind of vibe, but I got to be honest with you, I'm really enjoying it. So make sure you stick around for that.